love and pictures.
We're spreading that love back to him.
Ginger Dread Nazebo. We're also going to send the love to Cursed Hollow because that's where we're going for Game 2 between Team Freedom and Tempo. Likely a Tempo pick. So it is. Team Freedom choosing first pick. Not too dissuaded, not too worried about that last game. No doubt they knew that Dragonshire was going to be a Tempo favorite battleground, and honestly, Team Freedom played it very well. Not getting the keep, maybe what sealed the deal, what was a huge problem for them. We had talked about that, but otherwise, an awesome, explosive Game 1 for this match.
This map is very, very much in favor of two heroes. This was actually the highest win rate for Greymane during Phase 1. It's also a really good map for Hanzo. Two heroes that we know Tempo loves to play and paired together in that last game. So look for those heroes to have priority. I think that plays a lot. And again, I can't stress enough the point you made last week in Tempo's previous series about how much they prioritize camps. You can keep an eye on that clock, that 1 minute. It's common, right? But what Tempo is trying to do with it is different, right? They are really pushing the pace with those camps early. And the minute they cycle through again, they're pushing them again. It is a very known point. We know what camps can do on all battlegrounds. They are extremely powerful, but Tempo seems to have a little bit better understanding than a lot of other teams. But Team Freedom, on the other hand, they've got quite a bit of macro up their sleeve as well.
Well, I don't think there is any way that Tempo Storm gets both Hanzo and Greymane, because although we saw a Urel first pick from Team Freedom in the last game, that was Dragonshire, and this is Cursed Hollow, and I'm pretty sure Lutano is like, I can do it better, I'm ready for my Hanzo.
Well, so Abathur's going to be banned, which means that Tracer or Genji will be available. I don't know if Team Freedom would be willing to first pick a Tracer, but Tempo Storm will have to caution against that because they either have to pick it up in their 1-2, or they're going to have to potentially not ban Genji here and then pick up one or the other, because the duel between a Tracer Genji is always so weird because of the deflect option. You can deflect auto attack shots and do damage, but if you use that, you become a pulse bomb target and you can neutralize the pulse bomb. There's so many counterplays, and we see the baited out at multiple times. It's always such a fun game, like when Tracer dives, when Genji dives. Seeing that fun.
Ooh. So they ban Hanzo, which leaves up both. I can too, because I think if they left up Hanzo and Genji, Team Freedom would take that trade and take Hanzo all day and then just figure out a way to deal with the Genji. Because they want Lutano's Hanzo. They haven't played a single Genji game. Granted, he's banned most games in North America, but they haven't chosen to pick him. They really want that Hanzo. So now with the Hanzo ban, what does Freedom do? Do they get the Malfurion so that they have that for a Tracer? Will they be willing to pick up Genji here? At one time, Lutano was more than willing to play that hero.
Yeah. I also want to point out something. We brought up the meta snapshot during our broadcast yesterday, and if people haven't seen the updated HGC site, if you actually just go to esports, the esports page on Heroes of Storm, esports.heroesofstorm.com, or playheroes.com/esports, they've actually added increased stats. If you just go to the top of that column, I believe it's just click on the league drop down underneath that. There's a whole new section for stats, so we can actually see that, and there's a lot to discover, I think. We saw the meta snapshot, all the data is available there now, so we just recently implemented that. I was casually browsing it. I used to make a lot of graphics around those, and I'm like, well, I don't need it anymore because it's on their page.
While you're at it, it's right there.
There we go.
Playhero.com/esports. Just add another /tickets, because we're selling tickets to the Western Clash, and you don't want to miss it unless you absolutely have to. And you know, if you have to, we understand. You can watch from home, and we'll be excited to have you still watching. But if you can come, it's going to be a blast. We see a Malfurion and a Dahaka to follow up the Genji first pick that Team Freedom did go into.
I just wonder, because we see so much Kerosene from Team Freedom, I think that you can play around a dive composition. We saw Twilight Dream excellently used by June all last game. Another hero that you have to keep in mind is Uther in this circumstance. Uther does suffer against more sustained, longer team fights, doesn't have the same type of healing, but what he does give that Divine Shield to Genji, but we've seen so many Genjis move into X-Strike lately that it doesn't really, it's not as necessary as it used to be to have that style, but it is something that still is in the back of people's minds. It's one of the reasons why we don't see much Genji, and sometimes you see it second ban on Uther because of it.
Another pairing that we see with Genji quite a lot that fell out is Rhaegar.
Yeah.
Because Ancestral Healing with the Deflect, the Ancestral Healing numbers have been reduced, but having a Rhaegar to help with the camps, with rotations, having Wolf Run, they're going to take that odd. And now we see a Rhaegar and Murden picked up for Team Freedom before we move into the second bans.
Yeah, Rhaegar's back, so I think that fits in well. You know, another hero that we have to bring up at this point is the Tyrael, because I think this is a team on the side of Tempo Storm that could be running another melee, a triple melee perhaps because of the flexibility of Fan. And it's been a long time since we've seen main tank Tyrael at this point. It was the hotness, I guess, at the start after his rework in January, and that's fallen off quite a bit because of the playstyle, but it always gives you the area of protection, the holy ground, which we've seen used at various points. So always something to consider, but for Tempo Storm, again, you don't have to worry about the Uther option, so Li Ming double resets.
It's pretty scary. And especially with the Genji too, because it does set up for that, and it's such a volatile composition. It's a nice pick, or a nice ban from Tempo Storm. What do you think Team Freedom is aiming to take away here? A tank? Yes, it is a tank.
Well, I think that gives you a lot of control. There's a lot of terrain for Diablo to get value out of, but you can rest assured one of these picks will be a Greymane. Unless they have a different strategy up their sleeve, Greymane gives you the ultimate team fighting that we see. The Executioner at times does trade out very well against the Genji, but again, the camps, and that's something he does incredibly well, and that's something that right now they're missing between the Dahaka and the Malfurion.
And because they've banned Hanzo, he's a very faster. He's not a Hanzo boss taker, but he is still a hero that people have taken before to try to get those faster bosses. So in that instance, it will be nice for Tempo Storm to try to have the control over that, especially given that with the tributes showing up on the map beforehand where they're going to be spawning, there's a lot you can do to manipulate and try to figure out the rotations of your opponents because of that, and try to sneak in an early boss.
And one of the tweets that we saw pop up there a second ago was they saw Cursed Hollow, they wanted to solo support Abathur. Abathur was banned out. I think teams are very much aware that a lot of people are like, hey, look, that solo Abathur is the real thing. We actually saw Dignitas earlier in that game.
With the Tassadar.
I guess technically Tassadar is kind of a support, but they played that pretty well. That was fun to watch. But it's nice to see that people are now a fan of that composition. As we do get the ETC, the Greymane was indeed picked up, but the ETC, more importantly, Genji, Rhaegar, Muradin don't have a lot of interrupts outside of Muradin. There is a cleanse for Rhaegar, but Li Ming was also taken away to deny one of those potential interrupts. Yeah,
lending to the idea that this could be a mosh pit. Stage dive gives them more global presence, but they already have the Dahaka. I do really feel like that's going to be a mosh pit, unless what we see here from Team Freedom is enough to sway that decision for Caterpillar.
I mean, for Team Freedom, we know that Lutano has generally been the Genji player.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of Phoenix, but Phoenix doesn't have the interrupt that you're looking for. Jaina doesn't either, does bring the damage. So if you're Yoda, I mean, what's your pickup? I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot else that would have those interrupts up until this point.
Oh.
Ooh. Nasmus getting some work today.
Oh.
Nasmus, I believe, is going to be the Tracer player in this composition. Again, Nasmus is a fine backliner, and Sergeant Hammer rounds out that draft.
Ooh, man.
So,
ooh, baby. Tracer, Tassadar, Genji trying to fight their way onto a Sergeant Hammer.
Well, Sergeant Hammer, I believe in every single instance we've seen her in North America, has had a Genji ban to avoid that. And one of the reasons being is that Swift Strike, you get the strike at the heart at level 4, so you get the bonus damage, and you try and Swift Strike directly behind them. We've seen Shingun picked up a lot to go against Phoenix. It works similarly against Sergeant Hammer. You Swift Strike behind them, you get the bonus damage on your Shuriken damage if you hit all 3, which that combo between that 4-13 is something that Sergeant Hammer can struggle with, especially when you have a shielded Tracer also bringing a Pulse Bomb your way.
This is also going to be a fan Sergeant Hammer, which means Vin will be flexing over to the Greymane, and I'm pretty sure this is the first time we'll get to see him play Greymane, though Greymane's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably be pretty good on that hero, but that Greymane having that in combo with the Sergeant Hammer lets him rotate around, try to get camp so that they have pressure in alternate lanes, while a Sergeant Hammer, who does have some immobility, can try to just stick to where she is going to feel comfortable. And, you know, around tribute points, that's going to be maybe hard to fight into. We'll see how it works out for Team Freedom.
Yeah, that's going to be contrasting styles, because Greymane can siege up, Hammer can siege up. Greymane will get the camps before he sieges up. And wave clear, you know, we have seen more Rhaegars go into the Lightning Shield build, but outside of a Tassadar, Genji and Tracer don't exactly have the best wave clear early game. And so if Tempo Storm can force that advantage with those camps early, might be able to mount up a lead, then play around bosses and the like. What is that? I've never seen that.
Genji dance.
I was looking at the Rhaegar hopping up on his hind legs.
Oh yeah, because his dances, he does that.
Yeah. It's just the robot skin, the mecha skin.
Well, Rhaegar will try to help out with that wave clear deficit that you were talking about for Team Freedom, because we see the electric charge and his shield talent to be able to deal with that a little bit, because you have the increased radius. You can get Stormcaller at 4 to give you back some mana too, but Fan just walks right to the bottom lane, Siege is up, starts working.
Why not? I mean, who's gonna kill you this early in the game? At minute 1, there's no pulse bomb. Genji damage is there, but outside of a full CC train, who's gonna kill you?
Well, nobody, as it happens.
There's not been much of a response here.
Lutano went in, said hello. Battle was like, hello back, and he was, okay, I'll just go back to the mid. They're gonna maybe try to get some counter siege in, but this is...
Well, they recognize that the 1 minute mark, Greymane ends up peeling off of that, which is why we see Murden taking that vision. And they know that they can get a little bit of early damage in there. But Sergeant Hammer, I'm pretty sure, has won that battle up until this point. But Zugrug, a little bit of harassment. Lutano coming in as well.
Glarong takes some damage from that. Nasmus is here too. Collusion coming in. This is a good old-fashioned brawl. 1 minute and 30 seconds into the game. And it works for Team Freedom. They steal the camp. But what has it wrought? This Fan Sergeant Hammer in the bottom lane is just got the wall.
I want to paint a picture for you, and this is by no means it's not, let's just say it's pencil right now.
All right.
Bot lane. At 5 minute mark, the boss spawns. So you get it at the 6-7 minute mark. Maybe you get a tribute, you kind of run around, you use the Greymane. That fort all of a sudden falls. That fort is much easier to take down with that boss, and just getting keep wall is enough to set up another 5 minutes later, a second boss that can take keep and potentially game. Look, that is a strategy that a lot of teams will use on this map, as we see the root come in on Zugrug. And that is something you have to be aware of if you're Tempo or Team Freedom, to know that that boss play, you might just have to find a way to get a lead, else you might concede a lot of the map based on just simple camp and map boss control.
Yeah, that's why I've been seeing Team Freedom be so aggressive. Besides the fact that they have Muradin with the Genji and Tracer, they have all the capabilities to try to get some early game picks. First tribute will be spawning in 17 seconds. It's in the top, in the middle, and bringing back Sergeant Hammer to ensure that Tempo Storm now has the bruisers. They're going to clear out the bruisers of Team Freedom too, so they have the advantage there. But Team Freedom getting right back into the fight, getting aggressive again. That Fan, though, is doing work to Genji.
Yeah, Nasmus wanted to go in, and Lutano did as well. They wanted to get the execution, but so much damage on the return from Sergeant Hammer. There's the slide to Haka, not able to brush Stalker quick enough to get the tongue follow-up. But the fight is breaking out here as it's coming on all fronts. Vin coming up from the bottom. Team Freedom has to kind of get a soft reset here. Yeah,
Yoda had to use the Plasma Shield on Genji because he had fallen low, which when he didn't have it for Nasmus, who is still low, was hit by a drag. Heal was there from Collusion, but nobody can get in the right spot to be able to contest this tribute. So it goes over to Tempo Storm. Tempo put Fan back in action now in the top lane and have a lot of people here to assist that siege.
It's working out so well in their favor, and the rotation up by Team Freedom. This is a much stronger commitment. It's not just a Malf and Sergeant Hammer. This is multiple members, including the Greymane, so these structures are falling rapidly. Tracer and Genji have both shown mid, so the threat of a kill is definitely not there.
Pulse Bomb will chunk out Cattle, who's gonna act, what would you call accidental hearthing?
Yes.
Yeah, I see it. Nobody's responded to this, so this is just gonna be a lot of damage done. The Tracer and Genji trying to get maybe some counter pressure in, but they are getting Giants. They're gonna just try to siege in the other lane now, get some damage back toward the bottom lane, but it does feel slow from Freedom.
The minute Genji shows bottom, Tempo Storm instantly re-engages. Caterpillar in that mid lane was trying to keep Tracer around, trying to find that. Obviously, Yoda does do a good job on Tassadar to clear those minions, but another minion wave will be here imminently. This tribute's going to spawn. The top lane is going to be particularly interesting after this because the next tribute will be spawning at the bottom right side near that vision on the side of Team Freedom. So the approach for Tempo Storm to already take down bot or already take down top and then have the pressure with the Siege Giants top. See how they time this out and maybe start to put pressure towards that keep. But again, Team Freedom, they are changing the rules of this game and they are going straight for this boss.
Hammer takes a little while to get here. Only has the thrusters, starting to move her way here. Those Giants were just capped into Haka's in the top. But they're going to leash this boss, nonetheless.
This is wild pacing, Gilly. I mean, Team Freedom is just... They realize they can't push lanes the traditional way, so they're just, you go here, we go there. By the time you get there, there's nothing you can salvage.
They'll have to be able to fight over this next tribute, and they would have loved to do it with a kill. Cleanse has already been used now as Nasmus was rooted. Next tribute will be bottom right. Nobody, the experience is very, very even. So for Team Freedom, they can fight this out.
Well, again, the longer this goes for Tempo Storm, they don't have to get this, but they get a kill. There's nice follow-up roots there onto Zugruk, but the dive now, Lutano and Team Pulse Bomb goes out, armor wore off. Fan is in trouble here. There is no fort to retreat back to, no follow-up just yet, but again, the Siege Giants at the top right have to be dealt with. Tempo Storm, they would have loved to stay in that fight, but the assault of Genji Tracer diving that backline sped things up drastically.
I wondered if Tempo was going to leave Dahaka in a lane to try to get them 10 faster and just poke things out, but Team Freedom forced the issue by having the Genji and the Tracer. They get the tribute, and Dahaka was already there. Now it's going to be a trade on the bosses. But remember, with some damage done in the bottom lane, Tempo Storm could try to do a lot more with this.
And the fact that they're ahead in the race means that they'll be able to force the advantage a little bit quicker. They cannot dive necessarily the keep wall, and I don't know if they'll really try and push with this because the threat of that long retreat is just way too much. And that will be able to move through. They'll get a little bit of push to start by softening up the fort and getting the minions through, but I don't think they can afford to push here, and with the tribute spawning, there's no need to.
We see a Napalm Strike this time from Fan instead of Blunt Force Gun, which has been the usual heroic ability for our Sergeant Hammer players. Boss will be up in the top. Team Freedom wants to try to get some defense here if they can, but also setting up to maybe bring in a pincer attack versus Fan. You can see Lutano from one side, Nasmus on the other, clearing out the minions. Lutano
Team Freedom can't afford to let that boss go, which is why they've sent Tracer back. The slide in by Cattle. Lutano is going to swift strike out. This is a curse going over to Tempo Storm, and that boss now won't take any structure damage here. It is up to Nasmus on a Tracer to get this in. And now this is a little bit of that picture coming together because this boss now will get through keep wall. First curse is here. Lead will stretch quite a bit by the end of this. And then that's when you can look 4 minutes from now, 3.5 minutes from now when that next boss is available. Not only is threatening keep, but threatening core.
Yes.
And that is what Tempo Storm set up from the very first seconds of this game.
Well, they get the keep, and they are very healthy. And they have a third hit points left on this boss still, too. You're going to use that just to get some extra damage in from Fan on whatever possibly he wants to put on. Maybe the core, maybe just this mid keep, too. But importantly, the team doing a great job at zoning ahead of him. Nasmus going to dive in. Lutano too. They're looking at Fan. X-Strike hits with the Tranquility, keeping him alive. And Ancestral Healing is forced to be used on a Tracer.
Yeah, X-Strike and Pulse Bomb used. So the big Executioner heroics on the side of Team Freedom no longer there. They can't really engage again for at least a few moments until another Pulse Bomb is there. But 9 minutes in, keep down, 1 level lead, and if Tempo Storm can play around that, as it is 2 minutes 50 seconds away on that bottom left boss, if Tempo Storm gets a talent tier advantage, they will flex around that and make Tempo or Team Freedom's lives very difficult to come back and get into this game, and may look for an early end via the boss.
And unfortunately for Team Freedom, the boss that they acquired when trading out from Tempo Storm didn't even get the fort in the top lane. They have secured that fort in the bottom lane from earlier. Team Freedom have 1 tribute, but this free siege that Tempo Storm has been getting this entire game, somewhere something has to give for Team Freedom.
Well, using the Greymane to steal another camp, take another form of control away as the mines sniff out Zugrug, and that's not going to be enough to get there. Structure damage coming in. They'll siege up under this, knowing that they have that spell aura. And every structure that they take, watch the experience climb. Almost 14. We're looking at a 1-level lead and counting. This is the picture that Team Freedom did not want painted in front of them.
Team Freedom just wanted to get 13 to try to defend this. They still haven't even been able to get that. Those roots were monstrous. Hitting Nasmus, Fan untouched. Nasmus getting the shield's gonna start to bring back his health bar if he can. You see Lutano clear in the back as that Genji, always ready, always set up so that he can follow up and attack. And the attack is here. Zugrug goes in, unstoppable procced for Fan as he's gonna go back. There's the pulse bomb, and there's the Genji, but Genji was caught. Then we saw the mosh pit too, and Genji does not receive the Ancestral in time and falls.
Well, the execution was there, but there was just a little bit too much healing because they forced out the cleanse, which you pop that Neo Steel coating, also gives you that armor, and we saw the full commitment from Nasmus. The execution was there, the Sweat Strike, everything went in, but the healing from June and that high health pool from Hammer was just too much to overcome, and now Keep Falls 2-level lead, and it's mounting.
Boss in the bottom, 45 seconds away. Team Freedom need to get their team back and get back in the fight, or else they're going to be fighting against that with a 16 Tempo Storm possibly, though Tempo making sure to keep their front line together, don't have the Tahaka off soaking. They've just been making sure that they can keep together as one. Lutano harasses Fan in the back. Ancestral Healing was used too. Drag just as Archon was used by Yoda, and Freedom are doing what they can, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough, J-How.
Isolation missed on Yoda as he dimensional shift. There's the Swift Strike in again. The power slide, the follow-up, that's going to be the kill. Nature's Cure used on Fan as Zugrug in deep trying to survive, but he's going to fall. Now the core under pressure. Boss moments away from spawning. We see Nasmus, I believe, trying to find anything. But now for Tempo Storm, it's a formality for me, Gilly. I hate to put it in this point, but it is going to take a miracle for Team Freedom. But they have done everything. They're going to get the camps. They're going to get the boss, which is now available. They don't even need the camps. This boss goes directly to core, and that picture is no longer in pencil. It is in ink, and it is going to dry in a matter of 1 minute or so because they will move directly to core, and I don't see how Team Freedom stops it.
Is there anything more permanent than ink? Sharpie? This is a picture drawn in Sharpie.
I mean, it still can be erased. Siege Giants are being picked up by Team Freedom, but the talent tier advantage, the sieging capabilities of a Sergeant Hammer and a Greymane, the threat of Mosh Pit, even locking people down for 2 seconds at this point. This, again, this is a desperate miracle call for Team Freedom to dive this. And Tempo Storm, they've been here before. They might just walk past this. It doesn't even matter.
Cursed Bullet. Lutano takes a chunk of life away. Stormbolt's gonna hit Team Freedom, trying to start this fight way back so they have lots of time to figure out this puzzle, to rip apart this picture that Tempo Storm has been painting. Isolation hits Yoda, the boss protected. Team Freedom dives in, their target, Fan. It's been Fan this whole time, but Nasmus is already down. Lutano dives in, Fan stays alive. The Tranquility, the Mosh Pit hits 2 more. 3 kills. Zugrug may make it the 4th, but regardless, the boss is on the core, and Tempo Storm's gonna go up 2-0.
They couldn't have played that better. I hope that pointing that out early puts Cursed Hollow into perspective. Just double boss rotation, taking Keep Wall down. They ended up getting the entire Keep the first go-round. But even if they had only gotten the Keep Wall down on that first boss, that's still likely game there. They did that from the moment they started, and everybody knows you prep the boss lane, yada, yada, yada. But the way that they manufactured that win, it was flawless. Just absolutely flawless there.
And it goes back to what Tempo Storm has been working on, what they've been drafting, what they've been looking at, which is just taking down structures, getting structural damage every which way they can, getting camps and using that to get that. The Greymane pick, now seeing the Sergeant Hammer pick work out phenomenally for them too. Having a Dahaka to get some of the soak against, you know, what Team Freedom could have hoped to get done to counter siege, but with you're looking at the composition that Team Freedom drafted, that's not a whole lot of counter siege options. And so they wanted to get early picks, couldn't get that, tried to siege somewhere else. That wasn't really happening for them. And Tempo Storm just played to their win condition very well.
Gosh, if you're learning to play, if you're an amateur team, if you're an up-and-coming HGC team, watch that game. Just watch it from Tempo's perspective. Get the replay, download it from the esports site, watch it. watch it over and over and learn from that. Double boss rotation, the way that they manipulated the camps, the way that they rotated, the way that they drafted, everything about that. I mean, I could have just put myself on mute and that would have played out perfectly. I mean, that's just, it's so fun for me to watch a game like that when you draft that way, you execute that way, and you play that way. There's a reason Tempo Storm is at the top and has been at the top for so long. That is the epitome of Tempo Storm. That was just absolutely phenomenal game to watch.
Well, Team Freedom now has a little bit of time to try to learn from that and those couple of losses, because otherwise Tempo Storm is going to steamroll right on through this team. We're going to head to a break. After the break, Game 3 between Team Freedom and Tempo Storm. Don't go anywhere.
Comes out early, gonna get the big heals, possibly. Fancy Pants gets the heal at the last second. The whirlwind value as he tears through the back line, and the camp is held, losing just Johanna, eliminating all 5 members. Oh my goodness, that was clutch.